Going to be making a cheesecake today. Now this cheesecake, we're going to be making it with raspberries, but you could use blackberries or blueberries, entirely up to you. Now with this recipe, it's actually a bake in the oven recipe. I have already done a cheesecake, non-bake recipe, so you might want to check that one out. Now what we're going to do with this cheesecake is bake it up in the oven, and inside the mixture we're going to have the raspberries, and at the end we're going to dress it up with some more raspberries and a lovely raspberry sauce. It is delicious. So I'm just going to go through the ingredients. Now I'm going to be using raspberries, and in terms of quantity I've got about 300 to 350 grams of raspberries. I've washed mine and just pretty much dried them off. Then I've got my biscuits. Now I've got roughly 12 digestive biscuits, which is about 180 grams of biscuits. What you need to do is sort of blend those down or break them down into nice little crumbs and mix those with some warmed up butter. Now I've got about 80 grams of butter. I'd put that in a saucepan and you could just sort of mix it with a biscuit and it'll just make a really nice base for this cheesecake. I've got 2 eggs. Now I've got some icing sugar there, that's for later on at the end when we're sort of making up a little bit of raspberry sauce. I've got a tablespoon of about 15 grams of icing sugar. Flour, I've got 1.5 tablespoons of plain flour. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 150 grams of caster sugar, and then I've got 125 ml of soured cream. And then we've got 500 grams of a creamy cheese. I'm using mascarpone. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to get me digestives, and I want to kind of blend them up. I'm going to put mine in like a food processor sort of blender and just sort of make them really nice and fine. Alternatively, you could put them in a plastic bag and then just hit them with a rolling pin, make them into crumbs. So I've turned my biscuit into sort of biscuit crumbs. There is the odd lumpy bit in there, but as long as most of it's fairly fine and small, no problem at all. Now what we're going to do is go to the hob, get myself a pan and very gently melt that butter. Once it's all melted, add these sort of biscuit breadcrumbs in there, give it a stir, and then that is ready to put in our cake tin to make this really nice base for this cheesecake. So there you go, that's all nicely coated with the butter. Now I'll just leave that there for a moment and I'm going to go over to the table, get myself my cake tin, and I'm going to put a bit of parchment paper in there, a little bit of a coating with butter, and then we can put this base right at the bottom. Now I've got myself a cake tin and I've got a bit of this sort of silicone parchment paper. It's like non-stick because we don't really want it sticking to the bottom. So, just cut a piece of that out. Now this is quite a good little tin because you can actually pull it out. It's like a false bottom, but obviously use what you've got. So let's just put that parchment paper in there. Now I'm actually going to smear a little bit on the packaging with the butter, as I normally do, and just go round and make sure there's some on the bottom, and also just going to go around the edges as well. So just to make sure we can it doesn't stick. And I've got the sort of biscuit mixed with that butter mixture. And I'm going to pour that in. That's it. Now I'm going to use, I've got like a bent spoon I use for my gravy, but I think I'll just go round, spread it out to start with, try and make it fairly even. And then you just go round like this, just to flatten it all out. There you go. So I've got all that biscuit base in the bottom of the tin and that is ready to go. Now I'm actually going to put mine in the fridge for 5 or 10 minutes just to let it cool right down. Now at this stage, there's no reason you couldn't put that biscuit base in a tin in the oven and just bake it for 5 minutes and then again leave it to cool right down. Now I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to leave it as it is, put it in the fridge, and then I'm going to get myself a bowl and we're going to start mixing up this really nice cheesecake mixture. So we're going to start mixing up this cheesecake mixture. First of all, got my mascarpone. So I'm just going to put both of those tubs in the bowl. So let's scoop that out. And again,
Just get the second one in there. The next thing, I'm going to just put in the caster sugar and the flour, and at the same time just going to put in a little bit of vanilla extract, about a teaspoon. Right, so let's just get on and get this all nicely mixed. Probably want to do this for a minute, couple of minutes, get it really nicely blended in. There you go, I've been doing mine for about a minute. Now next of all, I'm going to do one egg at a time. Just mix that around. When that's all mixed in, then you can put another egg. That's it, let's go in with the second one. And once you've got that all nicely mixed, then we can put in the soured cream. Just trying to get the lid off. Now I'm going to use about half that pot, as I said. So about 125 ml, just under half the pot. That'll do it. And just make sure it's all nicely mixed. And that's all done. So now I've got the mixture done. Next of all, I'm going to put in about half of those raspberries. And what I'd say is you want to be very gentle with them. You just kind of fold them in, really. I'll just put a few more in. There you go. So now the cheesecake mixture's all done. I'm going to take that bowl out of the way. And I'm just going to get a sort of baking tray just to make it easy to get it in and out of the oven. And obviously I've got my tin back there with that nicely cooled down biscuit base. And it's time to just pour that mixture in there. Try and get it all out. Just try and give it a... do that, it kind of just flattens it out, loses some of the air. I'll just squash that down a bit, I don't know why it's sticking up. There you go, that's ready to go in the oven. Now I'm going to switch my oven on and get it preheated. Now I'm just going to place my cheesecake in the oven. Now remember, preheated oven, temperature wise, 180 degrees Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit, gas mark 4. Now what you want to do is to cook for about 35 to 40 minutes depending on your oven. We're hoping to get a little bit sort of firmed up on the outside and just wobbly in the middle. So leave that cooking 35-40 minutes. Now we've just come up to the 35 minutes, so let's just gently pull this out. Now what we're looking for is a bit of a crust on the outside but still a bit wobbly in the middle. So if I just give that a quick shake, it's a little bit wobbly, a little bit of a crust. I'm just going to cook mine for a little bit longer, another 5 minutes or maybe a couple of minutes after. So I've left my cheesecake for that extra sort of 5 minutes, so it's had a total of 40 minutes. Now I'm just going to open up the oven. Yeah, just a little bit browner on top. I mean, if you're unsure, you can still give it just another few minutes, you know, but I'm going to pull mine out, leave it on the table, and let's have a look at it. Now I've just taken the cheesecake from out of the oven and we're going to let this cool down. Now I've got a beautiful golden brown colour on top, and all around the edges it's all got a nice sort of firmness on the outside, and on the inside still really soft. Look, if we just wobble that, you can see it's beautiful and soft in the middle. Now what we need to do is to let this cool right down. Once it's cooled down, I'm going to put it in the fridge for at least 4 hours or even overnight. And when it's set, fully set, then you can pop it out and we can serve it up, slice it up, put some raspberries on, bit of raspberry sauce. be delicious. So whilst I'm leaving that to cool down, I'm just going to go over to the hob and we're going to start making up this raspberry sauce. Now, with the raspberries I've got left, I kept some aside. So these ones are the slightly better ones that we can dress it up with at the end. Now I've also got these ones, which I'm going to put in there. And they sort of got a little bit squashed or not quite so good. But we're only going to use that to get the raspberry flavour out. Now we're going to put in the icing sugar. Switch the heat on. And just bring that up. And we want to get the juices out of the fruit mixed with the sugar. So just leave that on. Give it a stir around and make sure it's all melted together and we've got as much juice out as we can. Just help it along a little bit. Just put a tiny bit of water in there. Again, give it a stir. You notice some of this is really softening down. That's what we're looking to do really. So just sort of make sure it's all in the juice. Carry on cooking until it's all really softened down and we've got as much juice out of there as we can. Now I've been cooking my raspberries on a low heat for pretty much about 10 minutes and I think they've really softened down now. Now as I say, if you wanted to, you could add just a little bit more water, just to give you a little bit more liquid, but obviously it will get a little bit thinner as well. Now what I'm going to do is to get myself a sieve and we're going to squash all those juices and get them into a little bowl so that later on we can serve it up with the cheesecake. Now I'm just going to really squelch that through and just try and get as much of that juice and leave the bits behind. So we've got the raspberry sauce there. That's all done. I've had a taste of that and it's absolutely delicious. Really raspberry flavoured and it's just, oh, that is heavenly. Now, just going to see the cake tins cooled down a little bit. I think we need to probably leave that another 10 minutes. It's still a little bit wobbly, but you can see it's firming up. So this is going to be good inside. Now in 10 minutes time, I'm going to put that in the fridge, leave it for about 4 hours, and then we'll come back and serve it all up and we'll have a delicious cheesecake. So I'll see you in 4 hours. Now I've had my cheesecake in the fridge for just about 4 hours. So it's nicely set and it's ready for us to take out the cake tin and serve it up. Now what I'm going to do first of all, is got myself a knife and I'm just going to, whoops, try not to damage it. Just go around the side, just to make sure it's released. Try and be a little bit more gentle than I am. There you go. Didn't feel too bad. And next of all, I'm going to take it out of the cake tin. So again, try and be careful, just sort of release it. That's it. Now I'm going to put that on a plate and then we can serve some up. So I've got the cheesecake on the plate looking good. Now I know that's going to be really yummy inside. Even though we've got this lovely golden brown sort of colour on the outside, it's going to be soft and mouth-watering as soon as you sort of bite into that. Now what I'm going to do is dress it up. I'm going to be using some raspberries. Now I kept some of the raspberries aside from the beginning, some of the ones that are really good looking, because obviously you want to put the nicest ones on top to sort of serve it up. The rest of them have either gone inside or we made that raspberry sauce. So let's start putting the raspberries on, but what I'm going to do with some of them is actually chop them in half just to make them go a little bit further. I'm just going to start with one right in the middle there. I've got some that I've just kind of chopped in half, so we can lay those there. Takes a while, but should look good at the end. So I'll just keep adding to it, and I'm slicing a lot of them in half just to make them spread a little bit further. But you know, if you've got lots of raspberries, obviously you can just put them on whole. It's up to you. So I'll just carry on doing that until I get it all nicely covered. So I'm down to my last two raspberries. I think I'm just going to squeeze these in. Put those there. There's the other one. There you go. There you go. That looks really nice. So I've got a cheesecake and we've got all those raspberries on there, and that is looking like I want to tuck into that. Now I've got this sauce here If you remember, we made that sauce. Now, obviously you could just pour it over the top and, you know, that's fine. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a slice, put it on the plate, and then I'm going to pour a little bit of sauce on. That way you get just the right amount. Now, I've just cut myself a slice, and I'm just going to put some of this raspberry sauce on. Oh, look at that bit dribbling down, it looks delish. Now I'm just going to tuck into this. Let's just tuck into that bit there. Get a bit of the base. Let me try that. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's heavenly. Really melt in your mouth. Not too sweet. Really tasty with those raspberries, and that raspberry sauce is absolutely wonderful. You'll really enjoy this, and it's so easy to do. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy, and I think if you make this one, you'll love it. Obviously put your own berries in, whatever you want to use, and it will be delicious. See you again soon, the original Naked Chef. It's so nice.